One and two and a...
Welcome to a brand new episode of Long Box Punk. I'm Chris, and I'm here to give you, let me get Fink in here. Hey, we're all together. I can't hear anything. There we go. I'm not going to wear this the whole time because this is impossible to breathe in, but I just wanted to surprise and start off the 2025 horror panels with something fun. So thanks for being here. I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. Let's go clockwise. So we'll start with Big Al, and then we'll go to Adam, and then we'll go to Fink, and then we'll be back. So Al, take it away.
Sweet. So hey, Alex Clark. I'm a illustrator and writer out of Columbus, Ohio area. I've got my own comic book series, Lost in the Shuffle, and I'm here to talk about horror tonight with my new friends.
And I'm Adam Santangelo. I'm based out of Toronto. I've got a comic book that I write called Mantle, and the second issue is about to hit Kickstarter. The first issue is out there now. And I'm also just a really big lover of comics and film, and a lot of that stuff is horror. So looking forward to talking about it.
Hey everybody, I'm Hans Fink. I'm known for mostly coloring and making crazy parody ads that appear in comics. I've worked on The Vein, and I have an anthology coming out called Pulp Oddities that has a lot of great artists, and it's a bunch of really strange stories in the genres of crime, horror, and science fiction. And so I am here to discuss the things that I love about horror, and also I watch The Gate.
Nice. Super great. All of those things sound amazing. A of all, just thanks for the three of you making time on a Sunday in October. I know you all had stuff happening this weekend, so thanks for making some time to talk horror with me and just indulging me. That's really what this is. It's my show, so like I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I love horror, so I want to talk about horror. And I had this idea last year, and then this year I was like, what if we all watched the same movie and then just talk about it? And if we liked it, cool. If we didn't, that's fine too. And just kind of go from there. So we'll get into The Gate. We'll get into, dissecting that movie, which was just way wilder than I thought it should be or was going to be. And then was pleasantly surprised. It was right up my alley, honestly. But before we get to The Gate, before we get there, I want to know from each of you, like, what was the first horror movie you remember seeing that you were like, oh, this is neat. Like, this is the thing that I'm into. And to give you a quick minute to think if you need to remember back. For me, I caught a double feature of both Psycho and The Birds at my Nana's house on like a Saturday, just in like May or something completely random. But I was like 10 and I was over there. It was my dad's weekend to have us. And we spent a lot of those weekends at my Nana's house, and she just let us watch whatever. And she was making dinner like all day, because that's what they did. She just spent all day making dinner. And so she was making dinner, and I turned on the TV and it flipped to Star 64 or whatever here in Cincinnati. And it had this black and white movie where birds were attacking people. And I was like, oh, what is this? And my dad came home like right when the scene with Hitchcock in the movie is like dead in the office and his eyes hanging out and a bird's pecking at it. And my dad walks in, he was like, son, what are you watching? And I was like, I don't know, but these birds are killing people. It's awesome. And he was like, oh, that's Hitchcock. Yeah. And so like he sat down and during commercials was telling me about Hitchcock. And then we watched Psycho together. Again, I was 10, probably shouldn't have seen it, but I did. And I loved it. And I've been hooked ever since. So that was my like brief, very high bar intro to horror, and it has only gotten weirder and campier, and I love all of it. So there's not a genre that I don't like, but my least favorite, I guess, would be like the schlock fest, just nonsensical gore all the time for gore's sake. If I had one that I was like, not a fan, that's the one. And I don't like torture being shown. Like, I'm not a fan of torture or rape or any of that stuff. Keep that in the Serbian film, and I don't need to watch any of that. Yeah, so that's my story. We'll reverse the order. So we'll start with Fink and then work our way around. So Hans, how did you get into what was the first horror that you remember?
My the chronological order of childhood memories is kind of jumbled, so I don't remember if it was Nightmare on Elm Street or Alien.
Oh gosh.
But both are excellent horror films.
Yeah.
I would say that Alien has always remained one of my top 3 just because it's so pitch perfect, and have whatever opinions you want about the various entries in the franchise. For me, the first Alien movie, that's a horror movie. People think of it as science fiction, and it is, but it's also a pitch perfect horror movie. And I think about that one a lot. But it's so totally different from Nightmare because it was serious without being pretentious, whereas Nightmare on Elm Street, you had Frederick Krueger doing dad jokes the whole time, and that was pretty great too, but for a totally different reason. They were like both valid, but for very different reasons, and kind of made me realize that there's a very intimate relationship between horror and humor.
Yeah. Yeah, Freddy's always been one of my favorite slashers because of that delicate balance between like terrifying and just ridiculous humor. Especially after he like murders someone and hits everybody with a one-liner, like that's peak. Adam, what's up?
Well, just iconic too.
Yeah.
I maybe got a good segue from that. I've got 2 movies, I'll say. The movie that put me off of horror, I couldn't have been more than 10. And I remember I got my grandparents to let me watch Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. It was on TV. And I remember I couldn't have got more than 10 minutes into it before I was just super upset. And they had to like turn it off and comfort me for a while. But I remember in high school, my friends and I were really starting to get into like, violent boundary pushing stuff. And I remember discovering Dead Alive by Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Which is kind of that like schlock humor stuff that you mentioned earlier, but I just loved that so much. And I think to this day, I haven't seen anything that like pushes the boundaries of gore in such an, amusing way as that one does.
Yeah.
So that's
and Peter Jackson.
Yeah. Well, I can claim to like have been a fan of Peter Jackson. And I remember they announced he was going to do like Lord of the Rings, and it was like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Big Al.
Yep. That is interesting though with Peter Jackson, because it's almost like when they were like, hey, Sam Raimi's going to do Spider-Man, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot like that.
So I have a weird backstory with horror, because I'm not a huge horror fan, but I've come to appreciate it over the years, because I grew up, my dad used to make me watch these old Bud Abbott and Lou Costello meet Mummy, meet Wolfman, meet Dracula, meet whatever. So I grew up on like comedy horror, and then Young Frankenstein. My dad probably let me watch that way too young, and all the like sexual jokes and whatever. But that was like my intro to horror and monsters was comedy. So then by the time I was like, oh, like let's watch, a real Wolfman movie or, something with monsters. Like that's when I kind of got more into it. I didn't really grow up on the slasher movies of the 80s. And so when I finally saw them, it was like, oh, I'm an adult. So it's kind of hard to go back and rewatch those for the first time when you're probably in your like late 20s, early 30s, as opposed to watching them in real time at the time. So, but yeah, Alien, seriously, one of the best movies ever made all time.
For sure.
But then like, when Scream came out, everyone was watching Scream. And when all these other movies came out, so I feel like there's all this horror. I'm kind of more in like The Conjuring. I love that kind of stuff. I love supernatural stuff. I love fantasy. I love Guillermo del Toro, kind of like mixing fantasy with horror. Like that's kind of that's my vibe.
Yeah, I'm a huge Del Toro fan. Like anything that he makes, I will at least give it a shot because he's involved. Same thing with Sam Raimi. Like I had the friend in high school that had stolen the VHS of Evil Dead 1 from his brother and brought it over to my house, and like we're like, yeah, we're gonna go to bed now. We're having a sleepover, and my mom went to bed. And then like an hour later, we stopped playing video games and snuck downstairs and watched Evil Dead. And it creeped us the hell out. And like after we were done, we were both like, do you want to go play some video games and like race cars or something? Like that was, and neither of us were like, we're scared, but we were both like, we need something happy. Like, because I think that for me, like the hauntings and the possessions and though like that whole corner of horror is definitely eerie because it's like I don't know if that could or couldn't happen, right? Like you hear the stories all the time of like these are based on real stories. It's The Conjuring, and it's like, is it, or is that just part of the movie? And like who am I to say that people couldn't be possessed or that ghosts aren't real or any of that stuff without even getting into real life now experiences that I've had with supernatural and ghosts and stuff, which makes it even creepier. And so like watching those are the movies that typically after I turn it off, I'm like, there's nothing in the dark room in the back of the house. Everything's fine, right? Like I can watch slashers all day and they can murder people left and right. And that doesn't bother me at all. For some reason, you throw in like ghosts or phantasms that are haunting either a space or a family or whatever. And I'm just like, creeped out, and I love it. I love the rush that gets me. And so like that transitions into like, what about horror has you like gets you excited or makes you want to watch? Like when you see a trailer, hear about a movie, what's the thing or things that make you go, yep, I gotta watch that movie. Like I want to watch that. We can go in any direction at this point. Like gates are open, my friends.
Well, I'll go. I think I told you in advance. See, I don't think of myself as a horror guy, but there's a lot of horror stuff that appeals to me. Like I'm a director guy, and I'm just like a good films guy. So, for instance, I love David Lynch, and you've got Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet and Eraserhead, and I think a lot of that stuff. Horror is one of the genres you might use to describe it. Or I love Kubrick and The Shining. I love Alien. It's been talked about. And when I hear a movie's great, if it happens to be a horror movie, I see it. So like I saw Weapons this year. I saw Longlegs last year. So I see a fair bit of horror. I love Guillermo del Toro as well. So, but I don't just seek out the genre for its own sake. I guess that's what I would say.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I'm a cinema guy. Like my son's going to school for film because of my weird obsession with film. So to your point, like Kubrick, like The Shining, I watch it at least once or twice every year just because I have to, and it's just like it's magic to me. But at the same time, I love to go back. This is going to be a weird like deep cut. Have any of you guys seen Transylvania 6-5000?
I know the movie and the song, but I don't remember anymore.
Okay, it's one of the worst like B cult comedy horror movies ever. And I made so many people watch this movie because it had like Gina Davis as a weird vampire, and it had Kramer from Seinfeld as a like weird cameo, and messed up. But like that's the kind of stuff I want to go back. And to your point, Chris, like do you want to see like really really good horror that's done by like top tier creators, or do you want to see just like, oh, here's horror, I just gotta like check it out? So I'm, as somebody who's been haunted, literally, I love like haunting stuff. I didn't used to, but once I was and got to experience like the supernatural, that's going to sound really hokey, but it happened. Now I'm more interested in that.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Fink?
I'm not exactly a horror guy, but as I have somehow gotten pretty good at creating horror related stuff. And I don't know where that comes from. I think what it is for me, horror rides the fine line. It rides the parallel with science fiction in that I think these are two genres that have the greatest potential for the most interesting storytelling possible, but they're both so inundated with horrible execution.
Yes.
So
True.
it's hard for me to wade through. See, my wife is a total horror fan, and she'll watch any like B movie on Prime, Tubi, whatever. Like if it's on and it's horror and she hasn't seen it yet, she'll watch it just to watch it, and then at the end be like, or maybe feel like I don't know. Depends on the horror film. And whereas me, I'm a lot more picky about how I'm gonna what I'm gonna spend my time watching. Because I like a lot of my time now is focused on creating, but at the same time, I feel like there's been horror that's really changed the way I think about storytelling or has informed the way I want to tell stories. Like I remember the first time I saw Event Horizon in a movie theater. That was wild as fuck. Like, oh my god, you're like that, just like moments like that influence the way that I tell stories now. So it's like not like I'm a horror guy, but it's more the fact that it's a genre that has so much storytelling potential to it, and the gems that you can find there are 100% worth it. Even the Flocky Beach stuff is worth it to an extent. I mean, like sometimes it's just fun to get a little high, drink have some beer, do some shots, and watch a total B movie fest. Sometimes, not all the time. Like other times I'm gonna watch a movie, I want to make sure I'm spending my time well. So
yeah,
it's what it is. But having said that, I do go on recommendations from people. I'm probably gonna watch that Transylvania 6-5000 film that you talked about on one of those occasions that I feel like it's time to get fucked up and watch B movies.
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum's in it. Like the character is ridiculous. It's pretty good. You gotta check it out. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like Nosferatu, like the most recent one. Did anyone else see that?
I'm watching it this year.
It is so good. Like I was shocked by it, but again, I'm a more of a monster guy. So I'm not gonna be like, hey, Twilight, twinkly vampires are bullshit like that.
Yeah.
But like if I want to see like good monsters, when somebody's like, no, this is really good, I'm gonna go check it out. And it was fantastic. Like the execution of it was just top notch.
See, every movie that guy's made is good. So like I haven't seen it yet, but that's the kind of horror I'm definitely gonna see.
Yeah. And I like
touching on what you said about monsters, I think that's another thing that does it for me about both horror and sci-fi is just really good monster design. Anytime, like even if the rest of the movie is crap, if there's a well-designed monster, that could be well worth it just for that.
That's why I think our household is obsessed with Stranger Things. Like, to be honest with you, that is the biggest throwback to 80s horror and with a little bit of sci-fi kind of mixed in. And we can't get enough of it. And we're dying for the next season to come out. But it's just everything about it. The music, the acting. Yeah, it's just top. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, we love it here too.
Yeah.
Me too. How many years has it been now since we got the last one? It's the final season coming.
15? I don't know.
I think it's coming before Christmas or something. I could have sworn I heard.
Yeah, they're doing like a part 1 and then a part 2. I think a part 1 before Christmas and then part 2 after Christmas. And I read somewhere, because again, we're a little weird about it, each episode is upwards of an hour to 2 hours. So each one's like a mini, kind of like Sherlock.
So they're like micro movies almost.
Yeah.
Because it's not super long, right? There's only
10, 12 episodes.
Yeah.
I remember I held off on watching the last season because each one was like an hour and a half or something, and I was like, I could watch like 5 movies. But then, eventually I watched it and it was great. So.
Yeah. We made the mistake of watching it right away, and then we were like, cool. So the next part is forever. Okay.
It's like reading a good novel, and then the writer's like, I'm going to put up the second book in like 3 years, and you're like, God damn it.
Yeah, come on, man. That's one of those, they should have done the Land Before Time approach where like they filmed all of the Land Before Time movies.
Right.
Like they recorded all of that voice acting for, I think, the first 6 movies, all at this in the same like year span, so that all the voice actors sounded the same. Everything was and then they just drew the rest of it as it was going. But like they already had the voice acting in the can, and it just like that to me is genius. Because now, like we're gonna see it's the Harry Potter thing. Yeah, they had everything ready to go, and they were like, "We know that we're gonna make a franchise out of this." I guess times were different where they didn't have to like do the market test of, well, we'll see how the first one performs, and then based on numbers and metrics and ROI and all these fancy whatever, like the shareholders are no, they were just like, yeah, kids are gonna dig dinosaurs talking. Like, yes, that's a win. And as kids, I was like, yeah, it is. It's a win. I love it. And so, but I never saw past like 4 because then it was just the same movie over and over. But yeah, I mean, they recorded everything all at once. Unless somebody fact checks me and tells me that I'm completely just making that up. But that's one of those things that I heard like 20 years ago, and I still believe it to be true. So if I'm wrong, my bad. But you see, so we touched on like monster design and schlocky movies, which is the perfect transition for The Gate from 1987. I'm so glad that I had this on my list. I put together a huge this year. It had 82 movies on it to watch. I started watching horror movies in August because there's something wrong with me mentally, I guess. And I love horror movies, all genres, all the things. My list is very intentional with seeking out all different types, monsters, hauntings, ghosts, sci-fi, surreal, like really weird, abstract Eraserhead type stuff, like all just covering everything at one from every decade. And so The Gate was on it last year, actually, and I didn't get a chance to watch it last year, so it made it to my leftovers this year. But so we watched it, and like just right off the bat, I have a confession. I'm Terry. I don't know if it's a shock to any of you, but I'm him. Like he's me, and we're the same. The further the movie got, the more and more that my wife was like, "Babe, that's you." Like he pulled out the comic book, and she was like, "Come on!" Like he went straight to the like, "I think you have demons." She was like, "That's you. You're Terry." And I was like, "Okay." And then we saw his room with the drum set and the band posters everywhere, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm Terry." But like, what were your reactions? She didn't hate it, which is wild. I enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised. Honestly, I didn't like the main kid, but like everything else was awesome.
Steve Dorff.
It's just he was so just I don't know, and that's the thing
to fight Blade.
Yeah, like that's the risk, right, with kids is that they're not going to put out stellar performances, and that's fine. And like honestly, it's an 80s horror movie, so I wasn't expecting Oscar performances. I never am with horror in general, honestly. But it was still fun, and like the demon design was kind of cool, and the whole premise was a as a younger brother with an older sister, that I absolutely was like, oh no, yeah, that's something that I would have done to my sister like all the time. So like I want to hear your thoughts and let's break it down.
I just want to ask questions. I have so many questions about this thing.
Great.
But first, has anyone seen this before? Did we all come in after like 30, 40 years and see this for the first time?
I've not seen it before.
Okay, first time. Okay.
But it's my wife's introductory. It was her gateway movie as a kid, and she'd always talked about it and mentioned it, and so it was my first time seeing it. But I was watching it with someone who like was very familiar with it.
That's cool.
Because that's my every time somebody goes back to some movie from their childhood, I always ask, do you like it because of nostalgia, or do you like it because it actually is good and holds the test of time? And as I was watching this, I'm going, I don't know if this is good, but I was wondering if anyone was going to be like, oh my gosh, that was my favorite movie of all time as a kid, but that's not happening.
I enjoyed it, but I'm sure there are some people who love it because they liked it when they were a kid.
Yeah, right?
I've heard from a lot of people that it was their gateway movie, horror movie as a kid. And I can see why. If you think about it, first of all, there's no body count. The only person that died was the dog, and spoiler alert, the dog came back to life at the very end, happy ending.
Yeah,
There
which
was
thank
no
God
real
for my
violence.
wife's sake.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like the injuries were like, kind of scary. Yeah, sure, but at the end of the day, everyone was fine. Everything was fine, and it was kind of on its surface a fine metaphor for going from becoming a big boy. Throughout the movie, he wants to call mom and dad, and then at the end, he finds the courage. He's isolated. His sister's gone. His parents are gone. The dog is gone. His best friend's gone. It's just up to him, and then he becomes a big boy now, and that's in a weird way. I can't help but wonder if the movie was geared towards teenagers, like those little Goosebump books or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was rated PG. So like even with my favorite part of the movie where he grabs his dad's head and it just oozes into his lap.
Yeah.
Like even with that and like, playing towards, oh yeah, we opened a gateway to hell and demons are coming out. It still was only rated PG. And I know like ratings are different now than they were, where everything is more sensitive now. So I'm sure that plays into it, but it had to have been, I would think, like geared towards a younger audience because they kept it within that PG rating. Like it would have been.
I feel like it was horror light.
Yeah. I think you could put it with movies like Gremlins or Poltergeist. Like it's it had a bit of an Amblin but slightly shockier quality to it.
Yep. Because you can almost call
and they don't make movies like that for kids anymore. Also, just kids in jeopardy is a thing you don't see as much anymore. Like kids with that kind of a threat.
Yeah.
I feel like Little Monsters was also a movie that was a really like intro into some of that horror monster kind of stuff. But it's weird because I watched that for the first time also in my 30s and was like, oh my God, like it's like Goonies where they're swearing. Like these kids are literally swearing more than I've ever swear in my lifetime. And the 80s, man, like there's just a whole level of they could get away with whatever. So yeah.
Different times, man.
I know, right?
Different times.
Goonies is an example of a movie I just have full nostalgia for, and I think it's actually good. I don't know if it is. Is it really that much better than this? I don't know, but I love it.
I think it is, but that could just be the member berries talking.
Goonies is to me one of the greatest 80s movies of all time. It's like that's just, plus the cast is fantastic. I mean, you got Sean Astin, who's been around since
right.
And
good.
Put Baby Ruth as a candy bar on the map.
Baby Ruth,
like
Baby Ruth.
Also, even though I didn't see this film as a young person, it had enough nostalgic references that it pulled me in. Like there was a Masters of the Universe T-shirt, or I don't know if you noticed in Stephen Dorff's bedroom, there's a Frank Miller Daredevil poster up, and there's an Alien Legion poster up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed all that.
Oh yeah, it's like my childhood. I know you were like, I didn't really like the main character, but I think I was the main character. So Chris, you would have been my Terry.
I mean, it makes sense.
And I was a bratty little dick of a kid. Like, don't get me wrong, but like in that instance, I definitely felt Glenn. Which who names the main character Glenn? Like, let's just be honest with you. Like, I'm sorry, but I was getting
common in Canada. I mean, it's a Canadian movie. So maybe they're just like, like Glenn is a Canadian. I don't know. I don't know. It was like the Ryan of its times, Yeah.
We had, and my brother and we shot rockets off. So again, back to that, like throwback to the 80s, you're shooting off model rockets. Like that was a big thing back then. So we did that. I personally think the writing was meh. The acting was eh. The special effects, though, that was like on par with like Ghostbusters level special effects. The demon, the big demon at the end was giving me the dogs from Ghostbusters 1 vibes, just like that kind of thing. So special effects were fantastic for the time.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Like I went in without having seen any clips or trailers or anything. And so, I didn't know if the effects would be limited to like a bubbling, glowing hole in the ground or whatever. And then when those minions, the stop motion, whatever they are, just turned up, I'm like, holy shit, like this movie's gone way further than I thought it would.
Yeah, I meant to, but I just didn't because life. But I wanted to look up like how they did that, if they were stop motion or if they had like when it was just the minions specifically. It almost looks like they were people in suits
Costumes.
that
So
they had recorded and then just done
There
the
was
like
some
overlay
parts
thing.
that were dudes in suits and was forced perspective.
yes, it was
Okay.
like Darby O'Gill and the Little People when you have the little leprechauns are dancing next to Sean Connery or whatever.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the forced perspective trick, and I'm pretty sure there are some parts of it where it was stop motion, but I don't know. I was watching a video about it the other day, and they were talking about how a lot of the scenes with the demons, especially like when that one kid is in the hole, or Terry, he's in the hole and he's kicking at him. It's just dudes in suits, and it's forced perspective.
I love it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand how it works, but I don't understand how it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like,
it's hard to visualize.
yeah, and even as a process junkie, it's fun to know those things. But like, part of me when it comes to horror stuff, I don't even want to know. Right. Like same thing with the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney. Like that's my favorite ride. Right. And I know that there are videos of people like going through and the ride gets stuck and they turn on all the emergency lights, and it's, you know, people recording that because you can see how stuff moves or whatever. And my wife was like, oh, I found this video about Haunted Mansion, like, you know, do you want to watch it? And I started, and she was like, yeah, it's like the, you know, the ESOP happens. I worked at a theme park, so I know all the stupid terms. The ESOP happens and the emergency lights come on. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to see any of this. Like I'm happy to look the other way and just enjoy the magic of the ride. And I feel the same way, like watching magicians perform and, you know, tricks and stuff. Like I don't care to know that the assistant is a contortionist and she's fitting in the seat of the chair and then she pops out when you cover. Like I don't care about the background, however the pudding is made or whatever that saying is. Like I just want to enjoy the magic, and I have no problem suspending my disbelief to just enjoy the thing. And so that's what I was trying to do at the movie, but then I also couldn't help but be like, that looks like a guy in a suit. Like it just bent in a weird way in his chest.
Hans just did some forced perspective just now. There was a giant cat in his home.
That's right. That's a very good point. The cat helped demonstrate forced perspective.
Perfect. See, it's also informative and educational here on Long Box
Yeah, by golly, and wholesome.
And wholesome. So coming out of the movie, was there anything
That's
that you were
what it is. It was a wholesome horror movie, and it's so fitting that it was made in Canada, because I think of that as a very wholesome country, and maybe that's a negative stereotype I hold as an American, but
I mean,
as
Adam's
a
pretty
Canadian.
wholesome.
Yeah. Well, so the movie was made 45 minutes from where I'm sitting right now.
No
and it's funny because I was watching it, and before I even learned that, something about it, I just felt like this is around here. This is like a suburb of Toronto. And then they showed a pizza box, which is a pizza chain in Ontario, Canada. So I noticed that. And then afterwards, I was looking it up. So the whole movie was shot in King City. That's where the house is, and Kleinburg, Ontario. And like, you know, both of those within 45-minute drives of where I'm sitting.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's so funny because I thought it was a little Caesar's box.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I had heard that the way they picked the location was, okay, so it's illegal to cut down trees in Canada. You can't just cut them down willy-nilly. They have to be rotting and dying. And then there's a permit, right? So the way they found the location, because they had to cut the tree, the script called for it, is they just found a place that they were going to cut down the tree anyways. It was already approved. So they're like, well, okay, this is our filming location.
That's awesome.
Nice. And there's like no rhyme or reason other than we need to find a spot where we can legally cut the tree, and then we're just going to build around it.
Wow.
Yeah. That's rad. So what was it like, Hans, watching it with your wife who like has this severe nostalgia for the movie?
It was interesting having an outside perspective on it, because there were parts that she remembered very well, and then there were parts where she was like, "Oh, this is my first time seeing this part." For example, she pointed out that she had never noticed before in the background. There was a picture of everyone, and everyone in the picture is dead except for the main character, except for Glenn.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, that's the first time I've seen that. Well, I'll check it out." And we watched it on TV, so we rewound it and paused it on that scene, and we're like, "Oh, wow, okay," So because she like seen it before, like the more you see things, the more you notice small details like that. So it's like she would just notice small details like that that she hadn't noticed the first few times around. But for the most part, I think it held up for her. Like she still loved it, still very nostalgic about it. I was a little bit more like, I don't know, man. And I actually did enjoy the movie, but the part where I was like, I don't know, man, there's more to do about like, okay, so I feel like in any horror movie, there's in-universe, there's an internal logic, there's in-universe rules.
Yeah.
And for the demons, there were really no rules. They were just like, okay, so like they can melt phones, they can be stack up into people. I don't get it. Like what's their with Gremlins there was rules. They were very simple, basic rules, and it was kind of silly, but at least there was an internal logic, and that's what kind of. And I know that's kind of like a thing to be like, oh, where about, but I was like, where's the internal logic though? Where's, like the demons are dangerous, but then the guy kicks them. Like, can't they just go around kicking them?
Right.
Like, what's going on here? Really, I don't know. But overall, like if you think about how the movie was made, how modest of a budget it was, and I think the kid actors did better than their adult counterparts. Like the worst actor was probably the dad.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
Awful.
But overall, like for being what it was an enjoyable movie. It was well made, and I got the impression that they probably had a good time making it.
Yeah.
I got that vibe, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe behind the scenes will come out they're abused or something. I don't know. But as far as I could tell, like I said, it felt like a very wholesome horror movie.
Yeah.
No one really got hurt. Everything was okay at the end once the little dude manned up. And
Yeah. See, my brain was like, I kind of wanted everything to end with being very bleak and like don't have the final like 7 minutes or whatever, and just let like the demons have taken over and they couldn't close the portal and he's stuck because he can't just man up and do what he needs to do and should have done the whole movie, and like just let that be the lesson of like, if you don't man up, chaos will ensue and your dog will be gone. Like all of that. But for my wife's sake, when the dog came back, she was like, oh, good. The dog made it. Okay. I was worried.
I love the like jock, like boyfriend type of guy who's really running around with like a fake dead dog throughout part of the movie.
Well, I was going to say, why does he have that in his car? In that scene?
And the dog's eyes are open and he's talking to the dog like, oh, I can't drop you off at the pet place because they're closed.
Did they explain why it was in his car? Like, I normally try not to be that guy with the logistical concerns, but
we're going to assume that he picked it up and put it in his car so he could take it somewhere to dispose of it.
Yeah, because the
girl
said that,
but then he brought it back to the house.
Yeah.
And threw it in, I don't know.
Yeah, because he couldn't find anywhere to dump it, so he put it at the gate.
Yeah, and honestly, the older sister really just needs to find new friends because they were all terrible. Like they were all
horrible.
The Lee sisters.
I agree with Hans 100%. Like to me, there was some logic to it that just when it felt like it was going to end and wrap up, they're like, "Oh, we solved it. It's great." And then suddenly zombies fell out of the wall. I was like, "Wait, where are we? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Like we were with demons, like little like leprechaun demons, and then suddenly a zombie fell out of the wall. I'm like, wait, did we just switch to like a Dawn of the Dead kind of a?
Yeah.
Well, it was a little bit like make a list of all the special effects we can, manage to do, and then let's fit them in somehow. Like when he had the eyeball in his hand, I was like, what's going on now? Well, it looks cool. All right.
Yeah. That's very like Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah.
That reminded me of Beastmaster a little bit.
Yeah.
I did like the hands pushing through the wall or whatever the the stagehand rolling the thing along
Right.
push
You
it
could
out.
tell he was rolling it. It was like a roll.
Yeah.
Like,
It was a cool effect though, like
it was cool.
you know.
I feel like that's in another one of the major films from that period. Like, doesn't Poltergeist have something like
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Beetlejuice.
So they just took that idea.
Yeah, you name it.
Yeah.
All those. Yeah.
I do have a question, which is, why did the rocket become a monster? I don't understand. I mean, I get that. Yes, it's cool, and the rocket is the Chekhov's gun that they introduced in the beginning of the movie. But why though? Again, like, what are the rules here? How come the rocket is the one thing that can save the world? You know,
Wikipedia said it was like a symbol of like purity of spirit or something because it was like a gift from the brother to the sister or vice versa or whatever.
But then it's
That's
fireworks.
Yeah.
They're fireworks.
Sure.
I didn't know why there were fireworks either. I wrote that down. I made notes.
80s. I did too.
Demon magic.
Yeah, it's I did. I mean, I felt like the fireworks at the end were more like it felt like they got to the end of filming and they're like, well, listen, we still have some money in the budgets.
The local store. And
how do we make this ending bigger? Like, I can just see a director doing that. Like, I need this bigger. And then
there's a fireworks stand down the street,
fireworks. Like, hey, my uncle Dan sells fireworks. We could go, but like trying to support a family member or something. Like, yeah, fireworks, absolutely. It doesn't matter. I liked the effect. Like, that was one of those. I was like, why? If the small rocket, they showed that launching just so that they could show it exploding, then your logic would be able to trace that the bigger rocket is going to have a bigger explosion. But you're right.
The first rocket didn't really explode, though. The first rocket,
it was
kind of like a nice little reprieve in the middle of the movie where he's like, wow, that's the best thing ever. And it was kind of like the mood kind of lightens up and it's a little bit of a break on the tension, when she pulls out the cool big sister moment. And it was kind of nice and, again, wholesome. But it's like, that established in my mind that, okay, the rocket doesn't really explode or do anything. It just has a little part that parachutes out or something. And so when he launches a rocket into this creature and it explodes, I'm like, okay, but what?
Where was the payload, kid?
Like, did I miss a part? Did they edit out a scene, a crucial plot point? But that's me being too analytical.
Yeah,
it's basically meant as tween entertainment, I think.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question along those lines. What about when they're in the closet and he just finds a shotgun and it starts, comes into the story? Like, that really struck me, but like, is that normal in the United States that you just find a shotgun?
No.
No.
That's another thing that bothered me. It's like, who keeps a gun just in the hall closet where anyone could walk in and grab it?
A box of shells.
With kids,
Yeah, no, you have a gun safe. Like, come on.
See, I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, okay. All right. My stepdad just had guns all over the house. So like, okay.
Ohio, it's fine.
Yeah.
I thought that was weird too. Like, they're eating dinner in the basement and then they got a shotgun in the hall closet in what I assume is the foyer. So I wasn't following the house layout.
Yeah, I did feel awful when Terry's mom came back. And I was like,
that was a genuinely sad scene.
Yeah. I was like,
it happened pretty early, and I was like, oh wow, is this movie going to be, more emotional than I expected? But it didn't continue.
Yeah, and then it was not the mom at all, but it was just like, oh come on, let Terry. Like, we get it, Terry's sad, but do we all have to be sad with Terry? Because I don't want to be sad with Terry. And also Oklahoma keeps guns just everywhere. So it's apparently an American thing where we just like guns. I
was always raised with, if you're going to have a gun, do gun safety and, store it smartly. But I can imagine that there's probably households where it's just like, fuck it.
Yeah. For every safe household, there's about 15 that are just like, whatever. Yeah. Guns in the coat closet, kid. Don't shoot your eye out. Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gun in the bathroom, gun in the guest room, gun in the kitchen.
Did anyone else feel like the movie didn't have like high stakes? Like you didn't really ever feel like anyone's going to get really injured or hurt. You all kind of felt like, okay, everyone's going to be fine at the end. I mean, let's be honest. Terry probably got more shit thrown on him than anyone else in the entire thing. Like, yeah. I didn't think there was any stakes. Like I never was worried that anyone was actually going to die.
And no one did.
No one did. I mean, even the dog didn't die.
Even the dog didn't die. Yeah.
Like, the dog came back to life.
Like Cabin in the Woods. You ever seen Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah.
Like,
That was a lot of fun. I
love that everyone died. Like to me,
Yeah.
I'm like, and everyone's dead. Great. Thank you. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes I think that's why my brain was like, oh, so he's lost everybody because he couldn't do what he was supposed to do. And like, life sucks for you, Glenn. And then everybody came back, and it was the
original script was supposed to end with the demons just taking over the world, or at least Canada.
At least
perfect. At least Canada. Yeah.
I think because it's like a kid's horror, like I was surprised it went as far as it did. I assumed somehow they would have recovered all by the end.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Once more than just the dog died, I was like, oh, everyone's gonna come back. Like no one's actually dead. Like this is some weird fever dream sequence or something. And like with the zombie popping out of the wall, I was like, there's no way we're entering an entirely new genre of like zombie movie after watching a demonic haunting movie and a monster movie. And like, there's no way we're doing another thing. This has to
no genre mixing. Jeez.
Yeah. Keep it separate. I have the segregated plates, okay? Like that's not true. I mixed everything together. And I'm okay with that. Like so fast forwarding, unless anybody else has like closing thoughts, because I want to jump to modern horror stuff.
When I first started watching it, my expectation was I didn't realize it was a kids horror movie, and I didn't know it was PG. So my expectation was that all the shitty friends at the party were going to be like cannon fodder. Like that, they were all going to die, and it would come down to just the three of them, you know, and I was so disappointed when that didn't happen.
Terrible friends, had no issues at all.
Well, Adam, you said that
they all got off scot-free, you know.
Yeah. Adam, you said you didn't see any clips or trailers or anything like that, right?
Right.
Okay. So I watched the trailer, so I kind of knew what to expect, and it kind of like put my head into the right mind space. But I was kind of curious, like you went in cold.
Yeah. Totally. So the movie sort of set its own expectations for me.
I had a vague understanding from my wife that it was one of her favorite horror films from her childhood, but I didn't realize that. You know, I figured it was just a grown-up film that she had seen as a kid and was like, right now I'm corrupt and evil and we'll watch horror films from here on out, you know. Yeah. But no, it was actually a gateway film, like literally the gate.
By the way, the last thing I'll say on this is there's a sequel by the same director, which I'll probably never see.
Terry.
Mildly curious. Yeah, Terry's
really?
the only returning cast member too. Yeah.
Terry's the only one that made it back.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the only one I liked, so maybe I'll be watching The Gate too, you know.
Right? Monday Night Fever.
Yeah, I also went in totally cold. The only time I ever do any learning on any movie that makes my massive list is figuring out, like, I've watched so many at this point that I Google, like, for this one, it was like, give me PG rated horror movies that are top rated. And so then I go through those. I'm like, okay, well, seen it. That doesn't look good. Seen it. That looks interesting. And so that's how I found The Gate. Was it just came up as a PG rated horror movie from the 80s. And I was like, oh, it's the 80s. It's horror. It's rated PG, because they didn't care in the 80s. Like, and so I was expecting, I feel like I was expecting more, just like weird shenanigans and stuff. And then it lulled me into like, oh, this is like a campy kids wholesome horror movie. and then the dad's face melted, and I was like, "Oh, this is rad!" Like I loved that.
That was
But
pretty interesting.
I love stuff like that when it happens. So like it
Like
lulled me
Wholesome
in and then
Horror?
caught me off guard. Yeah, like well, even just the surprising horror. Like I didn't expect him to go that gruesome when this whole time he was trying to get a hold of safety in his parents. He finally gets his parents and then they just melt into his hands. And I was like, oh God, it's so dark. Like this is so dark.
Thanks for choosing an 85-minute movie, by the way. That
Hey,
was delightful.
Yeah, short and sweet.
You're welcome. I usually try to follow the rule of if it's shorter than an hour and a half, it's going to be trash. But for some reason, some horror movies that are less than an hour, less than 90 are better than some that are like 2 hours long because it doesn't have time to drag on. Like it's just you went straight into the gate of hell and there's demons and weird chanting and all this stuff and the sister's stupid and the house parties, which by the way, I'm surprised no one called out the fashion choices that were made with these 15 and 16-year-olds at this house party that were all smoking cigarettes.
The hair sticking straight up in the air.
I mean, who has hair that sticks up, right? Like, come on.
The 80s were a wild time for fashion, man. That's something that my wife was definitely harping on a lot. She's more fashion minded than I. I just assume that if it's in the 80s, they're all going to look like clowns. But
everything is neon and polka dot. Yeah, and it was.
And Glenn even calls. He's like, "You look like a clown." Or, he's always throwing shade at those two girls.
Yeah,
the Lee sisters. He's just constantly throwing shade at them. That was funny.
Yeah, and as a younger brother, my sister definitely had friends that I was like, oh God, no, don't invite Sarah over again. Like she's the worst. So I was like, all right, I feel for you, Glenn, a little bit. Your dog shouldn't have died, but then it didn't, so everything was fine. All right. So now that we've dissected the gates, I'm glad that it seems to have gone over well. And it was I tried to pick movies that were going to match with the panel people. Just like all of this is super intentional on my part. So I'm glad that it worked out is what I'm trying to say. But so fast forwarding to future times, are there like, what's the like next horror movie that you plan on watching? Do you have a like Halloween tradition of watching a certain movie or doing a certain, and it could be like, do you read scary books? I've got a pile of like horror comics that I'll be reading this month. But again, I am super extra and I do all of that stuff, that I really don't need to do, but I do anyway. But you know, like what are your like Halloween, October, traditions that may or may not be horror bent?
Well, I mean, I'll start. We go back and forth between something silly like Hocus Pocus, and then we go straight into something that's more true horror. And we like to go with the classics, whether it's The Shining or Alien or stuff like that. You know, Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, that kind of stuff. So we'll go back and forth between like Hocus Pocus or Practical Magic with like hot, sexy witches who are drinking margaritas, like bullshit like that. But then we'll go back into, you know, like true horror. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, the holidays. You're like, okay, let's watch a true Christmas movie. And then my wife's like, let's watch a Lifetime. And you're like, oh God.
Do we have to?
Yeah, right.
They're all terrible.
And they're all the same.
They're all the same. I keep trying to tell my mom that, and she doesn't believe me. And then when she watches them, because there's now a holiday Lifetime channel dedicated to only showing their Christmas movies all the time that you can get through Spectrum. So she has the app on her phone and she just watches Christmas movies all year round because she's a psychopath. But my stepdad and I have watched I feel for him because she wants to watch them all the time. And he's like, fine, we'll watch the one where she starts in the big city and she moves to the small town and she falls in love with the firefighter and all the things, right? And we like call out the whole movie. And then as it plays out, she's like, okay, fine, I see your point. But this one's different because it's not a firefighter. He's a hockey player. I'm like,
a cop.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Adam, what about you?
Well, I don't know if this counts, but one of our local rep cinemas is showing every episode of Twin Peaks: The Return in the theater, like in groups of 3.
That's awesome.
And I mean, I love it. I've already watched it through a couple times, and I don't have enough time in my life to go to every episode, but I'm going to like the best ones. I'm going to a couple sets.
That's
So I'm
awesome.
pretty excited about that. Yeah.
That's cool that your theater's doing that. Do they normally do like fun
They're
events like that?
Yeah, totally. They're pretty big on horror all year round. Like I think that's kind of their core audience. But they show everything. But I mean, it's October, so somehow the Lynch Twin Peaks marathon made its way into the programming. But yeah, Toronto's a good film city. We're lucky.
That's cool. What about
Yeah.
you, Hans?
Well, we would like to go all out for Halloween, but a lot of my money and energy is tied up in producing my anthology, which launches this Friday. So that's like where the bulk of my energy is. But I think for the background, for my downtime, I do have some collections of the original EC comic horror anthologies that I'll probably read through. Also, even though I've listened to the Dungeon Crawler Carl, God, did I say right? Dungeon Crawler Carl. If you're sleeping on this, don't sleep on this. It's a great fucking series.
Best,
Yeah.
seriously. One of the best books I've ever read. I'm on the
So I listened to all the audiobooks, and they're phenomenal. I backed his Kickstarter to print one of the books, and I'm reading. Even though like I've heard the audiobooks through and through, I'm in the process. I'm now in dungeon number 2 of the first book. And so I'd like to finish reading that. If there's enough hours in the day. So on my downtime, when I'm not looking at a screen, I'll probably be with my reading glasses on, looking at the book, and then falling asleep with it on my face. But Dungeon Crawler Carl, I have an argument that it is in a way horror. If you think about it, it's science fiction, it's lit RPG, it's post-apocalyptic, and it's these poor humans forced into a dungeon, and their bodies are getting modified left and right. The ones that don't participate get recycled into monsters that you have to fight. Like that is straight up body horror.
Yeah,
that is some scary shit. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of like clever quips and great dialogue and exciting action. But when you cut through it and realize like, oh wow, you're watching these characters being traumatized in real time, and everything they're saying is a coping mechanism in real time. Like this seems like a lot of fun, but you're watching body horror and trauma unfold like in an exponential and unexpected manner. So don't sleep on that series, I guess is my point.
I never heard of that. I'm going to look it up.
It's such a good book series. The later books are like this thick. I'm not even joking. Like the first ones are pretty small, but they get thicker and thicker. I equate it to Ready Player One meets Hunger Games, like the video game about it, but then like everyone's out to get to the next level without being killed, kill or be killed. And Hans, to your point, like it's so good. It's like if the main character was Bruce Willis from Die Hard in the middle of like a video game with a talking cat who rides a dinosaur. Like,
And that talking cat is awesome, dude.
Princess Donut.
Princess Donut.
One of the best characters ever written.
Yeah, it's wild. So don't sleep on that. And then I would definitely I'll probably also be in my downtime watching whatever horror movie my wife finds on Tubi or Pluto. I'll probably just wander in. I'm like, what are you watching?
Tubi is insane with the like wild deep cuts that they've got in all of their horror movies. Like
I was watching Wishmaster 2 today on there.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the movies that every once in a while I'll just open it, and we've got all the streaming things. It feels like we have way too many, and every time I think about canceling, I'm like, I have Tubi. Like it's free. It's got all the weird, just bonkers horror movies, and sometimes like really good stuff, and sometimes just all the 90s dumb comedy whatevers. But there's so many movies that are hidden on Tubi if you just spend the time searching for it and looking through their library. It is wild, and it's all free. Like you have ads, but okay, it's free. That's fine.
Even the paid services have ads now too.
Yeah.
You know, like you pay a reasonable price, but they show ads everywhere, and it's like now you have to pay even more if you want to have
Yep.
ad free. But
Talk about horror.
I feel like Tubi is as close as you can get to like what video stores used to be like pre-Blockbuster, where there would just be some crazy stuff like on the bottom shelves, and
Yep.
you don't get that anymore outside of Tubi.
Yeah.
All the love. It is a deep selection, and it's surprisingly random and deep in terms of
And if you want really bad like special effects, they've got a ton of action movies on there too. And they're the like straight to like some weird obscure cable channel streaming back in like 94. And it's that movie that's there. Those are on there too. So if you just need noise, Tubi's great. They've got that too. So we talked the gates, we talked horror, we talked the genre. Hans, you kind of mentioned it, but I want to talk like what you guys have going on project wise, because you're all tenured creators, you're all doing the thing and making art, telling stories. And so I want to get into the last section here will be like let's sales pitch and workshop what you're working on. So Hans, because you already kind of alluded to it, what's going on with your anthology launching on Friday?
Yeah. So it's crime, horror, and science fiction mixed together. But some of the stories that are more horror leaning, I don't know, it's a lot of fun. We do have some creature features in there. One of the ideas we have is we did a story about the Lugaroo, which is a Haitian monster, which is basically a mix between a witch, a werewolf, and a cat. So there's like this whole lore about like, don't trust stray cats, because it could be a Lugaroo in disguise. And we have a story about the Lugaroo. We have a slasher feature about two serial killers that meet on a dating app, and they don't know that the other is a serial killer, so they're just like having a nice romantic evening while figuring out who's going to kill who. So see how that turns out. Then of course it's got a lot of fake ads that support that. We're working on a body horror piece right now that ties into my fake pharmaceutical ads, where each ad that appears in the magazine that's for a medication, the list of possible side effects gets ridiculously longer and longer until it's taking up like half the ad space. Just like those late night commercials, ask your doctor if blah 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 blah, and they just list like diarrhea, ulcers, all this. Like, why do I want to take it then?
Yeah.
So we did this thing where we started putting like body horror things. You start sprouting tentacles, or turn into a Tetsuo from Akira, type of thing. And so the ads are all made, and I just want a nice little comic at the end that follows up on that with some body horror. So we have all the flavors of horror. We have supernatural horror. There's East versus West in that. And there's one story about a couple. It's the artist that drew it for me. He read the script and he said it has a Frighteners vibe, which is another Peter Jackson directed horror movie from back in the day. And I appreciated that because I think it kind of does. But it's a rom-com. The wife can see ghosts, but she can't do anything about it. But the husband, he can grab them and punch them and interact with them physically, but he can't see them. So they're a team. They help people with their ghost problem. They have these rich clients that call them out. And they go over there. She points out the ghost, and he goes over and he tries to feels around until he punches it. And then they go around basically punching ghosts. And it's not very reverent. On the flip side of that, there's another story about this polite Japanese-built android that is equipped with a patented technology that can actually detect, record, and quantify spiritual activity. And because it's polite and has reverence for the dead in accordance with Japanese tradition, it goes out trying to peacefully and politely help spirits cross over. But some of the spirits choose violence, and it's just a poor polite robot. It's getting punched by these spirits. So, a little bit of role reversal. Two very different approaches to dealing with spirits, based on two different philosophical approaches. We have a vampire detective from outer space, but that's more crime and sci-fi than horror. But he's a vampire detective. He wears a space helmet. He can't bite people. It's got to be frustrating.
I love it. And
you mentioned something was launching Friday. Is that a Kickstarter?
Yeah. It's this anthology. It's got we probably have 14 different stories, I think, at last count, across those three genres, and each one is a little bit weird. We have different artists. R.L. Black is on board. He does the main cover and has a story in there. Then I have variant covers by James Edward Clark and a guy who worked for Mad Magazine named Kerry Callan. And you've probably seen his art. He's famous for having that for drawing that comic where Superman asked Wonder Woman why she blocks with her bracelets, and so she stops blocking, and everyone starts shooting her boobs to make her boobs jiggle, and she's like, "That's why I block with my bracelets," he's famous for drawing things like that. Or he has a famous T-shirt with a zombie whose arm is floating away with the balloon, and the zombie looks sad because his arm and his balloon are floating away. But yeah, Kerry Callan's a funny dude. He's got a feature in there. Plus, he did one of our covers. We've got Jevin Loop, Austin Ackert, and just a lot of really terrific artists. I, of course, colored the whole thing because, I'm a colorist. And, I designed the bulk of the fake ads that are in there. And, I brought in some people to help me edit the thing. So it's a big production. It's like 112 pages right now.
Wow.
So, yeah, it launches this Friday. I'm going to do early bird pricing for the first 48 hours. So I think just basically what I'm doing is I'm just going to take like $5 off for whoever buys it in the first 48 hours. And after that, you got to pay a regular price.
Very cool.
But yeah, it should be fun. It's my first Kickstarter that's officially mine. I had helped Dave LeConte, who was on the show with me before. I had helped him with his Kickstarter, but that was like, that was through his profile and was for his IP. So this is the first one that I'm doing through like my own profile. That's like 100% on my shoulders type of thing. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out. I'll say this, every contributor brought their A game. Like I'm really amazed. We did have a few hiccups that I had to like work around and find, the right people and everything. But overall, it came together pretty smoothly, and every single artist, I think, really brought it. I think that's going to make this a really special book when people see how it looks. You could actually see previews of some of it on either my Instagram or on the Kickstarter pre-launch page right now.
And how do people find you on social media?
Fink Inc. Comics on Instagram. That's my last name, Fink, F-I-N-K, and then ink, like, what you draw with, and then ink, like, incorporated. So I'm a real clever guy. So Fink Ink Comics on Instagram. And then I can give you the link for the Kickstarter pre-launch. Yes, that's my logo right there. Cool. The CMYK.
Just happened to have that sitting right here.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah. And I wasn't sure what all we were going to be talking about. So that campaign pre-launch page, shoot that to me and I'll make sure it's in the description for anybody that watches after the fact. And then same with Adam and Big Al. Any link you want me to direct people to for the two of you, shoot them over to me and I will get them in. So, Adam, what have you? I know you mentioned it at the top.
Yeah.
But what have you got coming?
Well, I'm working on an indie comic book called Mantle. Actually, I just grabbed it off my shelf. So this is the first issue. So the first issue is out there now. You can get it from my website, AdamSantangeloComics.com, Global Comics, Kindle. It's around. And it's a story of a boy, teenager, bullied in high school, and then he finds a power glove in his dead father's closet and has to decide whether to take revenge on the bullies. And spoiler alert, he does that in issue 1. So issue 2, which is coming out soon, gets into the consequences. It's going to be a 4-issue miniseries. I'm working on it with an artist named Jean Fernando. And it kind of ties with some of what we've been talking about because it's a bit of a boy's adventure, kids in jeopardy, slightly more violence than is appropriate for kids of that age. But hey, it kind of happens in real life. And yeah, in the first issue, he finds a weapon in his dad's closet and shoots another kid with it. And we're going to see what happens when you do that. So issue 2, the Kickstarter pre-launch page is up now. you can, if you look me up on social, you can find it like at the top of my feed, and the campaign will launch within the next couple of weeks. But super excited to get the second issue out there, 2 more issues next year. I've mentioned this to Chris last time I was on. When I was a teenager, I was a Marvel intern and I did Spider-Man comics. And this is 30 years ago, and I haven't made a comic book in 30 years, but Mantle is my return to this stuff. So super excited to be doing this.
And it's a whole lot of fun to read. So it's the 30 years well worth the wait, my friend.
It's been brewing a long time.
I feel that. Big Al, what's up, man? What do you got?
Well, like I said earlier, working on my comic series, like Adam, got a little comic here. So Lost in the Shuffle, this is number 1. Working on number 3 right now. I'm on like page 4. So when I started working on this long time ago, I was writing, illustrating, inking, coloring, the whole 9 yards. So now I have some friends who are helping out with the series so I can get this thing done a little bit faster. So Chris, you met Robbie. He lives here in town. He's helping out with colors. And my buddy, my roommate, Sean from college, he's actually doing the lettering on this. So it's a throwback, if you will. It's kind of an 80s road trip movie if Tarantino had directed it. So think of Midnight Run, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, that kind of thing. You got these 2 buddy moron friends in their early 20s who are in over their heads. They make bad decisions, and now they're on the run from the FBI, the local mob, and they're trying to get across the country to the main character's dad, who's kind of like a Bill Gates tech mogul, to see if he can do anything to save them. But they haven't talked in 6 years because his dad left when his mom had cancer. So it starts out as a buddy dark comedy, but then by the end of the series, it's going to be all about like father sons, reconnections, that kind of thing. And it's very loosely based on Wizard of Oz. So as they go throughout the country, they're going to pick up people along the way, and there's somebody who's out to get them for maniacal reasons. So yeah, and as Chris has found out, the second issue goes real darker than it probably should have. It gets into like a weird, I'm from rural Indiana, so I'm from middle of BFE, nowhere. And my weird obsession with creepy old farmers who live in the middle of nowhere, it got into a weird, like, he's got a girl in the basement, and how long she been there, who is she, and they find her, and now she's a part of their merry band of misfits. So yeah, that's where the horror comes in.
And how do people find you on socials?
Alex M. Clark 78, Instagram and TikTok, and then alexmclarkart.com is where you can go check out some stuff, other anthologies, which again, horror anthologies for some reason that I've worked on in the past. And then you can also buy the book if you want. So like I said, issue 1 and 2 are out. Working on issue number 3 right now.
Nice. I love it. And then just to give you guys an update on what I'm doing, because I never do that, but I'll take part because I'm excited to say that my collaborator Chris and I have fully scripted 23 pages of our first chapter of our series Barricade Brigade. We've fulfilled, sent out all of the physical copies, all the digital copies are out. All of our backers should have received them by now, except maybe our Canadian backers, because Canadian post strikes happen. But everybody else should have received them. And then I even sent some bonus stuff out to some people that just influenced me in my process and making comics to begin with. So that was super fun, but we are well on our way scripting. He's got thumbnails done for the first, I think, 10 pages already. And so but like fully scripted floppy worth. And we're aiming for this first chapter to be between 70 and 80 pages. And we're going to do like a square bound digest size, the 5.5 by 8.5. All of the books that we release under our imprint CHK Comics, they're all going to be that size because it's just a fun size. Like it feels very, I don't know, throwback punk zine. Like they were never full size books. So why should ours be? So it's exciting because every Saturday we're getting together at the butt crack of dawn and FaceTiming and just writing and creating, and it's the best thing ever. So cool. One last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot and I'm going to use that as the 24 pages. If I said 23, we've done 24 pages. Thanks, Chris. I'm gonna take a screenshot. I'm gonna use that as the YouTube thumbnail, and I'm gonna put this goofy mask back on. Because I think every show, I think I have enough masks that I can do a different one for every panel.
I feel jealous that I didn't bring a memo. I feel like if you sent a memo.
There was no memo. Yeah, I don't even know if you can hear me. All right. Keyboard shortcut. Here we go. We'll pose in 3, 2, 1. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, thank the three of you for just having a fun chat about for not being horror people. And you may have noticed all three of you said you're not specifically horror people. That was intentional too. This is a really great chat about horror. So thank you for giving it a go and for hanging out with me and talking about my favorite genre of all time, because it makes me have fun on my show. And really, that's why I'm doing this, is so that I can have fun. Have an excuse to talk to cool people. So hang tight. I got quick logistics for all of you, but for everybody else that tuned in or is tuning in, thanks, and enjoy some scary movies this month. Read some scary indie comics because they're good for you. And we are out of here.